Philadelphia Eagles could maybe use a linebacker. We shall see if they get one in the first round or not, whether or not they'll draft somebody. 2018 NFL Draft rankings continue. We're looking at linebackers now. An interesting position because I feel like it's top-heavy, but then after the top-heavy, maybe kind of goes a little bit downwards. Brennan Albert is here. I'm Adrian. Thank you. What do you think about this linebacker class?
Adrian, I think the linebacker class is really in like four big heaps, right? So at the top heap, you're going to have Roquan and Edmonds. I think they're in that mix.
Yep.
Then you probably have guys like Van Der Esch and Evans from Alabama. That's probably a mesh. Then I think Malik Jefferson. And then after that, that's when you get into guys like the Josie Jewells, Shaquem Griffins, and those type of guys of the world. So I think it's just kind of like big clusters. So I think this is going to be one of those drafts where when some team takes one of them, you're probably going to see the next one in that group go right away or right after it, and it'll probably be like big groupings of linebackers taken, no linebackers, linebackers taken, no linebackers. That's my guess on what's going to happen in this year's draft.
Yeah. All right, let's get right into the rankings. My number one is Roquan Smith of Georgia. I feel like every scout kind of has a different name, whether it's Smith or Edmonds out of Virginia Tech. Kind of like a differentiation there. There's like a 50-50 split, it seems like almost. I have Smith ahead of Edmonds. I think his ability to go sideline to sideline is very, very impressive. Now, the thing with him is you kind of have to build around him because if he's going to be put in a system where you don't have a good defensive line in front of you that can hold up blockers, he does have a little difficulty getting off blocks. But you take a look at Jacksonville's Telvin Smith, Tampa Bay's Levante David. They're in situations there where they're allowed to roam around and play free. And if Smith is in a situation like that, he's going to be very successful in the NFL.
I'm with you 110%. He's my number one guy. Dude's a missile. Yeah, he's a little undersized. Yeah, he doesn't get off blocks. But you know what? I'm not worried about getting off blocks if he's flying to the ball before the offensive lineman can get to him in the first place.
Sure.
And Roquan plays with awesome instincts, awesome speed, and is a very, very good coverage linebacker, especially as we see it today, guys. So much tight end stuff, so much halfback option stuff. You need a linebacker who can cover. I like him a lot, especially if he could be in a 4-3 defense. I think he'd be a great fit there. I'd love to see him in San Francisco. San Francisco quietly has been investing on that defensive line. That'd be a great spot for him to come right in and play behind him because you don't really know what the hell's going to happen with Reuben Foster. So to me, of the two, 1A, 1B, I don't think it's a 1A, 1B conversation. I like Roquan significantly more than Tremaine Edmonds.
Okay. All right. And I'm assuming Tremaine Edmonds is going to be your number two. He's my number two. And I feel like with him, there's two guys in this draft where I kind of have no idea how they're going to fare, but there's so much upside. So one guy is Josh Allen, and the other guy is Tremaine Edmonds. Edmonds is a 19-year-old kid. Now, the thing when I watch him is his instincts right now. I mean, he takes a lot of false steps, but he's so damn athletic, too, that for a guy his size, that he can kind of recover sometimes. But if you take false steps in the NFL, well, that's no good. And also play action, like ball fakes, like if you fake the reverse, if you play action, that always gets him biting. Now, again, he's only 19. Maybe that's something he'll learn as he gets older. But Tremaine Edmonds, you either love him or some people don't like him at all.
I'm with you. Yeah, and I am indifferent on him. I think a realistic landing spot for his skill set is probably in the late teens to 20 as far as his skill set. Yeah. But his potential is what's going to get him into the top 10. Yeah. I mean, as you said, at 19 years old, I mean, if I'm trying to be positive, Paul, I'm going to say, look, the kid's 19 years old. Of course he's biting on those fakes because he's 19. We all bite on those fakes when we were 19. So his potential is certainly high. 6'5", 253 at 19 years old. Man, where do you line him up? That's a pro and a con because the question then becomes, where the hell do you line him up? Yeah. Everyone talks about, like, oh, he can play on the edge. Can he? I mean, what do we have to know that he can play on the edge besides a hopefully big promise? So for me, I don't love him at being a top 10 pick. If I could get him into teams, I'm thrilled about it.
Yeah. Do you see this a little bit different than like even Hassan Reddick? Because Reddick, if you remember, he could play like everywhere. But this situation a little bit different.
I think that's a fair kind of train of thought. The big difference is Hassan Reddick was older, and I knew what Hassan was best at, and I knew what Hassan needed to improve at. With Edmonds, I'm not really sure I have a definitive answer for you guys on what he's elite at and what he's need to improving at. I might just say his thing he's elite at is versatility, and then I might say the worst thing he's at is versatility.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, because with Reddick, I mean, you can edge rusher, you can play him outside linebacker, and I think they're playing him inside right now in Arizona.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. And that's been a conversation about Edmonds. Can you put him at a Mike backer and a 3-4 because he's so big? Probably. But you know what? Zach Cunningham, a guy who came out of Vanderbilt, the big knock on him was he was too tall of a linebacker. He was over 6'3". A lot of times when linebackers are that tall, it's almost negative because they're worried about their ability to break down in their hips and be good form tacklers in the league. So if Zach Cunningham was too tall at above 6'3", Trevin Edwards is 6'5".
Yeah, yeah. All right, number 3, Leighton Vander Esch, kid from Boise State. So I feel like his instincts are probably the best of anybody in this NFL draft. The concern I have is he doesn't like to use his hands all the time. He likes to put his shoulder in the players. So, I guess that's something you can work on with coaches, and then they'll coach him up a little bit, whatever. What are your thoughts? Leighton Vander Esch, is he your number 3?
He is my number 3. I would say he is the second best instincts in this draft. Roquan Smith is my 1. But Vander Esch, his coverage ability is very, very noticeable. Very good at jumping to the hook, the curl. That's where I see him. I'm with you, Adrian. Biggest knock on him, very poor about taking on blocks, not great in the run game. So he really does a lot of the similar things that Roquan does, just with a little taller of a frame, but not as skillful. I don't have any of a problem with these rumors that came out of, oh, well, he only got a 4 out of 5 on the medical test. Guys, to be honest with you, most linebackers get a 3 out of 5. So a 4 out of 5, not a big deal to me. I still see him as a top 20 pick.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think he'd be a perfect fit for Philadelphia. I don't think he's going to fall that far, but you look at his coverage ability and the way that Jim Schwartz likes to play his defense. Doesn't like to blitz with his linebackers, likes to play them in coverage. So, you rush 4, drop back 7. And in order to drop back 7, you got to have a linebacker that can cover. So Leighton Vander Esch would fit that mold perfectly. All right, number 4 is Rashaan Evans of Alabama, and a little bit different skill set than Vander Esch. He's a guy that can kind of blitz a little bit more. You can even draft him as an edge rusher if you really wanted to. He has a tight little spin move. We didn't see him drop a lot in coverage at Alabama. That doesn't mean he can't drop back in coverage. But Rashaan Evans, he's my number 4.
I'm with you. He's my 4 guy. He's Bart Scott 2.0, from watching the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens did this. You have a thumper in Bart Scott. He was a guy who was going to do all the dirty work, attack blockers, blitz on 3rd down off the edge, 1st and 2nd down. He was going to fill A-gaps. Then you had your floater in Ray Lewis, the guy who was going to be able to play coverage, float over the top, make sideline-to-sideline tackles. So Rashaan Evans, he can play the inside backer in a 3-4 and be that thumper. He can kick outside and on 3rd down rush, just like Bart Scott used to do. I'm with you, Adrian. The big knock on him is, can he cover? He wasn't asked to, but that's also because he played behind Reuben Foster last year, who was projected to be a top 10 talent pick last year until all the off-the-field stuff came out. So I'm with you, Adrian. I think he's my 4 pick. I think a great landing spot for him just from a system. Be awesome for him if he played in Dallas, played next to Smith. Smith can be that floater, be the athlete, doesn't have to be the thumper, and let Evans come in there. Or in New England. That would be a great spot for him too.
Yeah, I'm with you there. All right, number 5. I really wanted to put Shaquem Griffin in my top 5. I really did. But I went with Malik Jefferson of Texas. Very, very athletic for a guy his size. I mean, I think his 4 – well, didn't he have a good combine?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he had a good combine. And Malik Jefferson is my number 5.
Just so you guys know, me and Adrian don't compare notes before we do these. We usually just say, hey, let's do linebackers. Let's just grip it and rip it and see what happens.
Yeah.
Malik Jefferson's my 5 guys.
Oh, man. See, linebackers were too easy for this show.
But I gave a couple extras, and we'll talk about those later. But Malik Jefferson's my 5 guy. I think he is more of an outside backer than an inside backer. He was playing inside at Texas, and I think that's not his position. I think he's more of a will edge rush type of guy because he's very athletic. 4.52, 27 on the bench, 36 vert, 125 on the broad. Biggest ability for him is coverage and rush ability. Not awesome at attacking the run game. Very poor instincts. Doesn't really read pulling guards very well. So to me, I'm like, okay, that's not a concern for me. because I'll just move him outside where he doesn't have to worry about all the trash. So I think Malik Jefferson is getting underrated. If he goes in the end of the first round, I wouldn't be surprised, honestly. I think he's a guy who probably goes 20 to 40.
Yeah, I like Malik Jefferson. Also, a guy not afraid to lay the lumber too. Big hitter, and yeah, you're right about his instincts. I mean, we did the film room on him, so I remember that. So there you go. All right, Shaquem Griffin. I mean, I guess I'll just ask you, what's he going to do in the NFL?
Well, that's a billion-dollar question, man. So I gave you a couple other ones. So I talk about groupings, right? So my top grouping I talked about there is going to be guys like Smith and Edmonds. Then we have Van Der Esch and Evans, Malik Jefferson, and then a big grouping here in the three of Jewell, Griffin, and Kaiser from Virginia. These three guys are pretty unique. Jewell and Kaiser are pretty similar in that they are more instincts, inside run, physical tacklers, not great athletes, but more of the true old-school middle linebacker. Then you have Shaquem Griffin. He is that joker role, can play a lot of different things, can rush, can play coverage, does a lot of things really good. Freakish athlete. I mean, if some team said, hey, we play a heavy cover 3 look and we really want our strong safety more to be a linebacker, i.e. Cam Chancellor, you want to slide Shaquem Griffin into that role, I buy that. I don't think he's ever going to be a single high safety or play, on the deep half of the field. Yeah. But side playing coverage, especially in the hook to curl area, giving him the ability to rush off the edge because he does have a nice spin move. He's a tough question on where he goes. Honestly, I said this to you, Adrian. We did this a while ago pre-show. He is the guy that I think has the largest discrepancy in where he is ranked in each team's board. Because one team might say, hey, I have him at 20. Another team might say, hey, we have him at 200.
Yep. And like you have there in that con, he's unprecedented. That's such a great word for him.
It's unprecedented. The NFL too often will say, okay, we will draft what we know. We will draft quarterbacks that are above 6 foot. We will draft linebackers who are above 240 pounds. The NFL typically wants to bet on the air side of caution, and I get it because these coaches and these GMs, if they roll the dice and they miss on a Tim Tebow, you're gone the next year. So with Shaquem, he's just unprecedented. That makes it really difficult to pinpoint exactly where is he going to go.
All right. So that's pretty much it. You got any sleepers? Anybody else?
I mean, this is a pretty good group here. There's a couple guys that could be later. I'm not a huge fan of the linebackers this year. So I'm going to say this. If the Eagles select Malik Jefferson at 32, it tells you 2 things. 1, they didn't have an option to trade back. And 2, they don't like the opportunity to get a guy like Jewell or Shaquem Griffin in the 4th round. I don't think it's a stretch that the Eagles take him at 32. I wouldn't suggest it. But if the board falls the right way, let's say you get the 6 quarterbacks before them, so you're not having a team wanting to trade up, I could see why the Eagles might take Malik Jefferson at 32 because of his upside. And the Eagles don't have a day 2 draft, which is really what should be spent on Malik Jefferson.
It seems like you're not as high in the linebacker class as like a lot of other people are. I guess people look at it as top heavy because you got the top names, but then after that, there is a drop off.
I'm a big fan of the top 3 on my board. Evans is a guy I think is more of a system fit, and I like Malik Jefferson's upside. So I would say of the 5, I feel pretty good about them.
Yep.
Three, I would stand on the table and say, hey, these top 3 guys, if they're on the board, we're taking them. Evans is a guy I would say it depends on what system I'm running. If I'm a 3-4 team, I like him a lot. And then if I'm a team looking for a coverage linebacker that also can come off the edge in Jefferson, then I think it makes a lot of sense. Like I said, I don't think it's a stretch to see him at 32. I personally wouldn't do it. I would try to trade back. But if the Eagles don't have an option to trade back, I think he'd be a good fit in Philadelphia.
All right, there it is. That's our linebacker show. We only got 1 show left. Defensive backs. It's going to come tomorrow. So that's Brendan Albert. I'm Adrian. Thank you. Draft's almost here.
Can't wait.
There it is. Take care.
That's it.